Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
So for what's the one piece of advice you'd give to somebody starting their own dental practice? It would be becoming adaptable to very rapidly changing circumstances. Because you could be God's gift to dentistry, you could have the best business plan in the world, but inevitably, on a routine basis, there are going to be things that come at you so far out of left field that the best fortune teller in the world couldn't have seen it coming. And at a certain point, it becomes, in those situations, how do you maneuver? How do you adapt? How do you keep making forward progress?
So I loved that piece of advice, and that comes from, I don't know, can I say his name?
Yes.
So that's Dr. Riley, who we had a chance to spend some time with at one of our events recently. And I just think that resonates so much with me because when I try to tell somebody about who's not a practice owner and try to convey the challenges, and we go, okay, yes, like, or as even starting my own practice, right? It's, how hard could this be? Like, get some dental chairs, find your idiot. Like, that idiot opened a practice. Why can't I do that? I'm not any more of an idiot than that person. Like, they figured it out. I'll figure it out. There's all these resources. I've got this. Get some hand pieces, do some marketing, get some patients. And yet, then you get submerged in this gong show every day. And you don't even know how to reflect back on it and go, I don't even know how I could, convey to somebody else. These are the kinds of things on a daily that come at you. So I guess maybe it resonated with me because he's so right. It's just out of left field, out of nowhere, suddenly. It's like, what the hell happened? And I had, at one of our other events, another colleague and I were talking, and I think she's had her practice for 7 or 8 years. And she asked me and said, but certainly by the time, like, you've had your practice 13, 14 years, like, certainly, like, things are pretty mundane. And I was like, no, ma'am. No, it's as much a shit show at year 14 as it was at year 1, as at year 11, year 5. Like, there's just constantly things changing. So I think he captured that beautifully. And I think that's where a lot of the angst comes from, is sometimes you are like, dude, why is this so hard? Why am I making this harder than it should be? And anyway, I think I have gotten a lot better in adapting and pivoting. And I loved what he had to say. I don't have any tips on how to adapt or pivot other than maybe medication of a variety of types and sorts. I don't know. That's all I have to offer. Join a wine club? I'm not sure. But I'm sure you have more practical, solid tips on how.
I do have a few in my tool belt.
Okay, please take it away and school us, because I guess my other thing is like I have you. And so, but for the people that don't have a you, how are we pivoting?
Yeah. Well, to me, it starts with expecting to have to pivot. I think sometimes when we just assume that the best laid plan is going to take place exactly the way that we planned it, when those changes come up, it can be overwhelming in the moment because we had a plan. This is the way we were going to do things. And you have this emotional reaction to this out of left field thing that pops up, that you take so much time emotionally responding to the fact that your plan is changing, that if we could just get over that mental hump of expecting something to come out of left field, expecting to have to pivot. So then how,
because I'm tagged as a negative Nelly when I think about that. So for some of us, that, like, I'm a melancholy and the dominoes lining up. So I am more impacted by something changing that I wasn't expecting because I thought I expected it all. I was like, no, this could happen, or that could happen, or that could happen. And then somebody with more of like a phlegmatic personality that's like, dude, we will figure it out. You are wearing me out. You're wearing yourself out. Like, calm the F down. Like, it'll be fine. Go. How do you not wear yourself out or seem negative?
Right. So to me, it can come across as negative. I totally and completely understand that. And even mentally, we can register that expectation of left field or pivoting. We can register that as negative. It's almost like we're walking into the day assuming worst case scenario. And so we have to protect ourselves in that process as well. So I still think we can go in with a positive mindset and say, it's going to be a great day. I know things are going to come up that are going to challenge me, but I'm pretty dang good and we will overcome. And so to me, the expectation of change has to be there, but also the confidence in yourself and in your team has to be communicated so that we can say, even if it's down to you're looking at the schedule and you're like, oh gosh, look at this combo of families that are going to be here at the same time. And your mind is immediately going to not only all the things that could go wrong, but all the things that probably will go wrong, because they always do with these families. And so it's real easy to portray that potential as super negative to the team. So we can start that morning huddle with, by the way, did everybody look across at that 9 and 10 o'clock hour?
Thanks, Susie.
Yeah.
For scheduling it that way.
Who scheduled this? What idiot put these families together, you know? And
they didn't read the flag. Nobody reads the flag on this.
Oh my gosh. It is so, I can't tell you how many times that comes up. So we can get into the blame game and why did this happen? But does that really change anything? No, the families are still coming. We're not having Susie call, the Jones family and the Petty family and reschedule one of them. We're complaining for the sake of complaining, which does no good whatsoever. So
it makes me feel better.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd beg to differ with you on that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So it's like we can approach that potential left field that's coming at us just with super negativity. Why did this happen? This can't ever happen again. And look at all that's going to happen. Or we can approach that with a challenge mindset. Like, hey, we got some challenges on our day-to-day, guys. Look at the 9 and 10 o'clock hour. As you guys know from looking at the flags, the Petty family, they've got a crazy mom. She asks a lot of stupid questions. She's going to take up a lot of Dr. Kuba's time in the op room, talking about the procedure again. That op is going to run behind. That's okay. We've also got the Jones family at the same time, and their kids are crazy. Remember, they're the ones that always touch the stuff on the tray. Last time they punched our hygienist, one of the kids fell out of the chair, and it's those are really challenging kids. So we've got this challenge. Let's talk about how we can be prepared to pivot. If Miss Petty is delaying the start of the op appointment, what are some of our strategies for solving that? What can we do? Who can think of solutions? Okay, if the Jones kids show up hyped up on Kool-Aid again, what can we do about that? And so you approach it from I am anticipating problems. Now, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. But it's not oh, woe is me. This is going to be terrible. This is the end of the world, which accomplishes nothing. And what a defeating way to start the day. Then if you start the day at 7, all the whole team can think about the entire time is, oh Lord, doomsday is coming at 9 a.m. because we talked about how bad it's going to be. That is not productive or helpful for anybody. So I think we've got to anticipate the things that could go wrong, but I also think we have to anticipate it with the right mindset, which is we can fix it. We can solve it.
And I think that's just taken time to cultivate and confidence to go, actually, yeah, it does turn out okay every time.
Yeah.
Like, I've worried about this for no reason. So I think there's definitely a healthy balance of not worrying about anything. Just go, well, we'll just figure it out. No. That might work year 1, year 2, year 3 of the practice where you're not that busy and it's easy for you to problem solve things like that. But once you've grown your patient base and you've got busier days, it's actually quite draining on the team and on everybody. And ultimately the patient experience is what's going to suffer there because you didn't proactively anticipate the things that may happen. We had one, yesterday was a school holiday, schedule was super busy. Well, I was looking at on the day before, I was looking at the health histories for that day just because I knew it would be a madhouse and I wanted to just sign off on as many as I could. Well, a family was coming in and I see the flag pop up and I'm just like, oh, for the love of God. It's this mom that never wants x-rays. They're European and I'm a scientist. And in Europe, we don't do all of this. Well, okay. I can appreciate that and to a point, but the kids are now 6 and 7 and we've never had an x-ray on them. Mm-hmm. And every time I talk to her about it and then I proceed with letting her sign the refusal form. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. And I was very clear the last 2 times and I am not budging this time. But I'm too busy to have this conversation with her again because we talk about it every 6 months. I'm not doing that. And so I did. We reached out to her the day before and said, hey, just heads up. We know you always want to know about x-rays and I wanted you to know ahead of time that this is what your kids need. Mm-hmm. And this is what Dr. Kuba is going to recommend. And of course she starts arguing with the hygienist before. Well, how can she know without even looking at the teeth? Well, I can know because I've noticed close contacts every visit and your kids are in mixed dentition. And that is the guideline. I know because I've never had an x-ray. So that's not a good, okay thing to do.
Right.
And I'm not doing it again. And so you dig your heels in every time. I am blindsided every time because I always forget. This time I caught it in advance. I'm not getting stuck in that operatory and trying to people please my way right and left. I'm not doing it. So we had all of that conversation. She hung up on my hygienist first. Then, I sent her a picture of the AAPD guidelines highlighting like why I don't need to look at your kids this time. Like I know I need these x-rays. Gave her an opportunity to calm down and then call back and state whatever she stated and hung up. She hung up this time with a thank you. And then she called back and canceled the 2 kids that she didn't want, that she knew that I wasn't going to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so anyway, but all of that was we preemptively, because we knew that we were going to be busy. And is there anything I can do ahead of time to make less of unpredictability or less left-winging coming at me at a time that I know my personality type doesn't deal well with it. Now, I have a colleague that, does fly by the seat of his pants relatively well. However, I would say at the end of the day, I do see where patient care could have been enhanced if we didn't have to juggle so many things in that moment. Now, did he do a bad job with that patient? Was he neglectful with something? No. But I can tell where I'm like, well, you didn't talk about this or you didn't mention that. Well, yeah, I didn't have time to. Yeah, you didn't have time to because you didn't preemptively do some of the things you could have done.
Right.
So, or even for the matter of, forget maybe it's not patient care, but just me looking at you going, you're the, associate and you could have seen these many more patients, but you were busy stuck in one room, which meant I got to go see these other patients. So from a strictly production standpoint, you missed out on all this production you could have had because you didn't preemptively, get some things taken care of. Now it's up to you. If you're like, production doesn't matter to me.
Right.
But I'm just going to sit and dig my heels in and go, nope, I refuse to look at health histories beforehand. And you want to sacrifice the production for that. That's on you. So maybe it's not a bad thing for him. Now it could be if I'm going, dude, I had to see an extra 4 patients because you were putzing around in there because you didn't. So anyway, y'all see my point. Like it could go any which way. But the point is, like Dr. Riley was saying, was you should expect something to come out of left field.
Expect it and be prepared for it, which is, I think, the point that you're making so clearly, which is that is not a negative mindset. That is a proactive mindset, which is not negative. That's a very positive thing. Now, there's going to be some things that we can't get out ahead of. We just can't see it coming, and it asserts itself into our situation. But a lot of times, if we're assuming a certain thing, we can be prepared for it, even if that certain thing doesn't happen. Like, I love the example with the x-ray lady that you brought up, because you were being proactive because you knew the next day was going to be pretty crazy busy. You want to eliminate as many potential problems. You project this is going to be a problem because the pattern shows it. Rather than saving that for a same day pivot, you're like, we can get out ahead of this the day before. And I think a lot of times because we're either falsely positive and we're just assuming that the day is going to be beautiful bliss, which we can assume it's going to be a good day, but for us to assume that there's not going to be any problems that come up, I think is stupid.
I agree. I think it's dumb.
I think you have to assume, you have to look through and be prepared for what could go wrong and how can we be proactively prepared for that. And to me, that's almost like most of the left field things we could get out ahead of. Not all. There's going to be some that still surprise us. But if we're thinking ahead and assuming that something could go wrong, we view the day a little bit more differently. That's one of the things that I suggest in all my practices is I love chart prep. And a lot of offices or teams prefer to do that the day of, which I get it. There's a systematic way that we're just muddling through the day, and to get to the end of the day and have to chart prep for the next day can feel exhausting and defeating and all that. I totally get it. But I love the day before chart prep because it does give us the ability to anticipate better for the next day. And this is a perfect example of something that you caught the day before that you were able to get out ahead of before the day of. Because if we can address a patient or a parent the day before about a potential issue, or like in a general practice, if we know we're supposed to be delivering a case the next day and we've chart prepped the day before and holy moly, where is the case? And we're calling the lab and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and we realize it ain't going to be here by Sally's 9 a.m. appointment, but the lab says they can get it to us by 1 p.m. Do I have the ability to move Sally down to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. and deliver her case? Well, if I'm doing it at the morning of, I'm calling Sally at 8:30.
Oh, Sally's going to be pissed. I would be pissed.
Yeah. Whereas if I did her the courtesy of calling her the day before and anticipating a problem, I looked ahead and then was able to troubleshoot it the day before, Sally's going to be she's not going to be happy about it, but she's going to be a whole lot more receptive to what you have to say than 30 minutes before her appointment.
I hate to interrupt today's episode, but I just have to pipe in and let you guys know that we are 2 weeks away from the Managing Dental Drama membership launching. November 4th is the date. On that episode, in the show notes, you will be able to click on a subscription link, and that will take you and give you the opportunity to sign up for one of 3 membership options. So I want to tell you about those. Level 1 membership is going to give you access to a bonus episode every month. In that bonus episode, Dr. Kuba and I get together, we look back at the previous month, and we come up with very practical, tangible takeaways that we'll discuss in that episode. Level 2 membership gets you the bonus episode, but it also gets you a monthly digest that Dr. Kuba and I put together. In it, she has an article, I have an article. We also have team building ideas, but we also have resources available for you. So if there's any document that we mentioned in the bonus episode, we actually provide that document to you so that you can immediately execute any step that we've told you to take. Level 3 membership gets you direct access to myself or Dr. Kuba. Each quarter, you'll have the ability to have a phone call with us where you bring your questions or your drama to us, and we help you navigate through that. So please don't miss out. We've got so many amazing listeners. I want to see all of you as a part of our community. So November 4th, mark that date down. Go to the show notes, hit the subscriber button, and become a part of our community. Okay, I'll let you get back to the conversation.
And that's a lot of what we talk about with the patient experience. And I think a lot of people get short-sighted with the patient experience going, do I have somebody that's going to be like, hey, Sally, how are you? Here's our coffee station. We've got a nice smelling bathroom. That's not customer service. Anybody can deliver that. Right. That's nothing unique or special or, why would our patients think that that's anything extraordinary? The patient experience is not wasting Sally's time and gas where she could have been at work and now she took the time off in the morning, or she had to drop her kids, or her husband had to drop the kids, etc.
Yeah.
So like the patient experience is making sure that we're not wasting somebody's time, or at the very least, like not making them feel special. Like I would be like, you had no idea who I was or what was bumbling around. Like you only care about yourself and your schedule. You can bother to think about mine.
Right.
Like talk about really putting a bad taste in somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
And also, I think this whole chart prep concept and being prepared doesn't just fall to us. I think teaching our team members
100%.
on how to do that and appreciate that. And I think a lot of times the team members just, they don't. And some that have that choleric personality where they like to do that come across as the bossy ones, or the mean ones, or the melancholy ones come across as the worry warts.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And so funny enough though, I have an assistant that's a strong choleric, and it was very eye-opening to me about 2 weeks ago where I kind of was like, she has accused me of, I'm all over the place, so I'm hard to assist. And I'm not wrong. Y'all can tell I am all over the place in a lot of different ways. But I kind of stopped and I went, am I making it more challenging on my team? Is it poor communication? Am I not communicating properly that it makes it seem like I'm all over the place? Or am I truly all over the place and no wonder they're struggling? So I had to really self-reflect on what was going on. And so I kind of walked through like, what do I say or what do I do that's not making sense? And then, but I looked at them too. And not that I can't improve on my communications. Absolutely I can. There were things that I was like, okay, yeah, I instead of saying set up for this, I probably needed to be a little more specific and going, well, this is the anesthetic I want. This is the isodry size I want. This is the forcep I want. So yeah, there was some clarity to be made in that appointment with an assistant that's not usually assisting me. However, when I looked at it, I said, I think the problem is her. Mm-hmm. So I pulled her in and I said, okay, tell me now, if you're bringing this patient back, because she's been mostly a hygiene assistant and she'll assist the other doc, but I won't let her assist me. And so, and she doesn't want to assist me because I'm, quote, all over the place. So I was like, we need to get to the bottom of this. And so how come none of the other assistants say I'm all over the place? How come they can keep up with me, but you can't?
Right.
So what, I'm not saying it's not me, but I'm saying it's not all me.
Right.
Pull her in and go, okay, how would you, talk to me about how you would get this op patient settled in the chair, or how would you prepare for this op patient? Well, what are we doing for that patient? Exactly. How would you know what we're doing for that patient? Well, I look at the appointment note. Okay, let's do that. Let's look at the appointment note. And I said, okay, so this appointment, when you double click on it, shows that we're going to do a pulp and crown with nitrous. Okay, so that's what you look at. Yep. I see where the problem's coming. You are grossly ill prepared for this appointment. And she just looked at me like I'd slapped her, right? Because she's like, I've worked with over 50 doctors, and by the way, she's like 22, maybe 26, whatever, right? I've worked with over 50 doctors. And I said, well, would any of those 50 invite you back into their practice? And I can say that to her. We had a giggle about it, but the point was that she temps. And I said, well, that's why I don't bring in temps into my office, because the mindset is I've just got to get you through your day.
Yeah.
But I need more. And so I need somebody who's going to know the ins and outs of how to handle that patient, how to handle that mom, how to handle our documentation, how to handle the state board form requirements, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I said, okay, well, you haven't done a thorough chart prep. So now you're expecting, my red flag goes off already. I'm like, we're doing a pulp and crown on a 5-year-old. They might do it with just nitrous, but the majority of our patient base is not, like, we get the ones that if they could do it, they would have stayed at the general dentist. That's not who we have in our practice.
Right.
So that already is a red flag to me. Like, if that kid's not going to cooperate on nitrous, what is our plan B? Like, we need to be prepared for that. And she just looked at me again like I'm speaking Chinese. Like, that had never occurred to her.
Right.
And I'm like, how could that not occur to you? Oh, because the majority of your dental experience has been temping.
Right. You
don't have to problem solve. So now you think you're a very proficient assistant because you're able to hop in and out of offices, but I don't view that as proficiency.
Right.
And so even just outlining that definition, for her. So then I said, okay, so what is the plan B? She's looking at me like clueless. She's never thought about a plan B. So then I say, okay, well, let's look at the chart. Well, sure enough, the notes were that it should have been a sedation. The kid was a Frankel 3-. So for those of y'all that don't use a Frankel scale, a Frankel 3- means you were pretty much a turd in the chair. Like, it's all we could do to get you through your cleaning.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to inject you and pulp you and crown you. This is going to be a shit show with nitrous.
Yeah.
So how did we get there? But that to me, where I'm like, okay, so one of the tools that we needed, which was sedation, has been taken away from us. Luckily, the parents didn't want to pay for it. So now can you see how now I'm going, okay, I need to expect this kid to be a shit show. So now I've got to go, am I Hall crown techniquing this? Am I throwing silver diming on there? What am I doing? Well, that's what you view as me being all over the place. But I'm all over the place in my mind going, okay, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. If the mom says this, are we restraining? Are we not restraining? What is the parent preference? Where am I going to lose this kid and how far can I go and what is my plan? You who have thought of nothing in advance, all you were planning was the pulp and crown.
Plan A.
Plan A, that's all you had. And not even plan A, it was the plan. That was it. Yeah. And so now when I'm going, I need the SDF, I need the crimper, I need the this, I need the that, and you're not prepared for any of that, now I'm all over the place. Mm-hmm. No, ma'am, that's you for not planning ahead. So I think that analogy follows through with chart prep or with anything else. Like Dr. Riley's saying, it may have nothing to do with clinical dentistry.
Yep.
We don't know where this left field ball is going to come at our head. And are we ready to duck? Are we ready to catch it? Or are we going to get slammed in the face because we were completely not expecting a ball to come out of left field?
Right.
Does that mean you need to wear your helmet all the time? No, but you need to be prepared and aware.
Mm-hmm. And don't let that left field ball defeat you. Like it is, I have found very few problems in all my years of consulting that are not solvable. And I feel like there's big balls that might come at us, and then just the everyday little balls. And either way, they're solvable. And I think we've got to, first of all, prepare ourselves to be assaulted by something out of left field. But we also have to prepare ourselves that we can manage this. We can solve it. This is not going to defeat us. A lot of things that comes up on a daily basis is staffing. We walk into the day and shoot, our lead assistant is out with some type of sickness that we just weren't prepared for. And we look through that schedule and we're like, oh my gosh, I really needed Susie here for all of this. And that's left field. That's a left field moment. We are just sat there. But if our mind was prepared for something could go wrong with today and we can overcome it, then the mindset is, dang, I really wish Susie was here. But it is what it is. There's no reason to wallow in this. Wallowing in the fact that somebody didn't show up to work that day is not going to help. We've got to go, how are we solving this? And
that shouldn't be a surprise. As a business owner, that shouldn't be a surprise. It's not just us.
Yeah.
Every day at McDonald's, every day at, Apple, I'm sure there's somebody who didn't show up that was supposed to. Like, that's life.
Yeah.
So to be torn up about and pissing and moaning. Now, it's a different story if she's like every other day, but that too should be even less of a surprise that it's every other day. You know what I mean? Like,
we should be surprised when she shows up.
Yes. Now what do I do, Susie? I could have scheduled 3 more patients. Yes, agreed. But what is your plan? And then yes, if it's somebody who's constantly like, that's what we ended up doing with ours, where it was like every day somebody at the front was always showing up late.
Yeah.
Or it was 2 of the 3, or it was all 3 of the 3. And we're like, this is getting old. So after a while, we knew one of them was going to no-show. Like, that just became, but we did incorporate it into our bonus structure.
Yeah.
And we saw that get better. And then we got rid of 2 that were the culture problems. And we've not had a problem since. Everybody shows up to Huddle all the time now. We're having smoother days.
And what I love about that is that was what I would call a small pivot, like a daily, like this was hitting us on a daily basis, like these people continue to be late, but then it led to a bigger change. So I think that's key as well is, yes, there's going to be left field balls that come at us and we're having to just daily pivot. And if those are unconnected, okay, then just have the right mindset, get ready to, pivot, be prepared for change, have plan B and C ready to go. But then if there is a theme to those left field balls, okay, well, what's a bigger pivot that we need to do? And I think that's a perfect example that you gave. If you've got chronic tardiness and we are talking about it and we're telling people they need to be on time, okay, we had to get together and go, okay, but how can we actually solve this? Or at least penalize the people that are continuing to come up. That's a big picture pivot that came out of paying attention to those small little struggles on a daily basis. So I think attaching it to bigger changes sometimes is necessary.
So then, again, our global theme here was starting to talk to Riley's comment about being able to pivot and being aware of those. And so that was your advice, was be aware that it can happen. Don't just stick your head in the sand wearing your rose glasses, but don't go off the cliff either going, oh, this is doomsday every day. But just some managing expectations and being ready to be in problem solving mode.
Yeah.
So I think my piece of advice when I was like, yeah, how have I learned to pivot? I think one was that going, yeah, I guess this is a common theme that we tend to see. It's not just me. Quit boo-hooing and whining, like thinking, oh, this is just me. Oh, no, this happens in industries across the board, whatever the issue is, right? And then being aware. But then I think my next strategy or whatever is making sure that I've got a team in place that I can help, that it's not all on me to problem solve it by myself, I think. So who are the trust? So there might be my manager came to me the other day and was like, when we were getting out of Guardian, we extended our 30-day guarantee of fees to be 90 days, or we took our 90-day to 30 days, whatever it was, like whichever direction we took it in. And she's like, but now we still have that policy, but it's getting very confusing. Bottom line is we're letting patients get away with whatever estimate they were given, regardless if it was 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, and we can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
And so what are we doing about this? And again, now we're getting into where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, because to me, the ultimate point is then somebody has to have the conversation with the parent that you're going to owe more money. Mm-hmm. And that's a bad patient experience. Mm-hmm. And I tend to say, is write it all off. I don't want a board complaint, but I am running a business. I can't do that.
Right.
So we do have to look at this. But to me, it is very heavy, very defeating, very much like, I got to pivot on this again. I got to problem solve. Why can't this just go away? Why can't they just figure it out? Okay. And that's it. That's all I'm allowed to bellyache about. And then I go, okay, what is the solution here?
Right.
Well, I don't have the solution for this, but you know what? Bethany could weigh in on it. And our AR person needs to weigh in on it. Mm-hmm. Because where's the problem truly coming? Is it that we are not communicating well on the front end? That this estimate is only guaranteed for a certain amount of time? Is it coming at the moment of when the parent schedules? And then we're not doing a good job of looking at the last estimate to see if it has changed or not? Where's the problem coming in? Right. My question is, how often does this happen? Like, it's not like we're changing our fees. We change our fees once a year. So why would the estimate change that much?
Right.
But I guess it is. So that's my lack of knowledge of knowing, why did it change that much? Well, is it because insurance changed? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know enough about this, but that's okay. I've surrounded myself with people. I've got Bethany on this thread. I've got our AR person on this thread, and I've got our front desk on this thread. Y'all tell me how we need to pivot with this, because you're right. This is like the fourth patient this week that has either been upset because they were told of a estimate change, or this is the fourth one y'all don't want to call and I'm having to write off. And now I'm writing off thousands of dollars, and I can't keep doing that. So we've got to pivot and go, what is our bigger plan for this?
Yes, exactly.
And anticipating, because if it is the fourth patient that's come in and reamed us out, then we should be more prepared to go, oh gosh, there's 4 now. Number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 aren't far behind. Like, I'm not going to keep ignoring this and having my ass handed to me. Like, we need to problem solve this in advance.
And that problem solving in advance on the little nitty gritty things can happen while we're waiting on a major pivot. So if we're going to change our policies and make the estimates last longer, or whatever the big picture change is to hopefully perpetually solve these, we can still pivot with how we're handling the ones that happen before the big change. So some things that need like a full system change, we've got to address the whole thing. That takes some planning and some time and some communication and advice from other people. But it doesn't mean we can't try to temporarily solve the problems that are going to pop up in between now and when we actually make a system change. And so to me, those are small pivots that we can plan for and prepare for and overcome while we're preparing for potentially a bigger change.
So that might look like, okay, these were the 3 guardian patients. How many other guardian patients do we have coming in the next 2 weeks, and what can we look at there? That to me is a smart pivot. You're anticipating that this is going to happen, so it doesn't feel like it's out of left field every single time that this is happening.
That's correct.
So can I, I'm going to go, again, you may not like me doing this, but I'm just going to not look at you and do it anyway. So with my advice being that have a team of people to help you. And I think that's one of the big things we hear from dentists is I'm isolated and who's going to help me with this? Nobody else in the office understands this, or my husband said I should do this, but your husband's not a dentist and in the office. Like who is your resource? You have problem solved this kind of already. We're going to our subscription model. And one of the subscription benefits is you can phone a friend, if you will.
Yes.
And ask these questions, you
Yes.
know, and be like, hey, I'm not ready for a full-time consulting gig here, or I can't afford it right now, or whatever the excuse may be. And yes, I said it, the excuse, because we all need consulting, period. But I can't be the only special needs one that needs, like, I firmly believe in consulting. So what if you don't have a consultant, you're making excuses and fooling yourself. I can say that, you will never say that, but that's what I believe. Anywho, whatever boat you're in, with this one subscription model that you're launching, it's that you have access to saying, hey, we had this issue happen in our office. Can y'all help us problem solve this?
Yes.
And so I think for the pennies that you're offering it for, it's ridiculous. I don't know how you can afford to offer the rates that you're offering, but whatever. I think that comes out of the goodness of your heart and wanting to help more people. So thank you for that. But that is coming. So if you don't have your own team of people that can help you pivot on the daily, hopefully this is one other option that may help.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because that's what it's there for, is for the people that are making whatever excuse it is to not have consulting. It's going to be at least some tangible resource to go, how do I pivot in this moment? This is a problem out of left field that I wasn't anticipating, couldn't have anticipated, or it's a problem that keeps coming at me and I can't figure out how to solve it. I need advice. With our third tier of the subscription model, you'll be able to actually get advice from myself or from you. And so I do think that's going to be a good resource. I think that was a good place to mention
good.
it.
I did not make eye contact with you, because if you're like, shut up. So with that, if we can pause here, do you have, there was another doc that we met with at an event.
Yes.
And it was a very similar comment. It's similar, but a whole different presentation, but the theme was the same. And I feel like that would be a really good way to wrap up this
he's going
episode.
to summarize it beautifully. I think it's a perfect ending to this episode. So please enjoy listening to Dr. Patel's advice on pivoting.
So this is Dr. Roshan Patel. The question I'm going to answer is one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's starting their own dental practice. I think the biggest piece of advice I could give, and this is probably nothing unique or something that you haven't already heard, but it's so important, is just realizing that things are not going to go perfectly and as perfectly as you had planned it to go. And I think one of the reasons that is because as dentists, we are very, most of us are very type A personalities. We have a very specific goal in mind. We're very detail oriented, and when we set ourselves up for a very specific path, when when it doesn't go that way, it can make things even more difficult and more challenging for us to accept the outcomes. And sometimes that comes with a lot of disappointment and feelings of failure. But one thing I've learned is to persevere through times when things don't go well. And as Bethany has always said on her podcast, and she's shared with our team, is learning to pivot. Whenever you have a situation that comes up, things don't go well, learning to pivot. How can we look at this as a situation that may be not such a bad situation? How can we make it better? And what can we do to help our team grow and learn that adversities are going to come, but it's not going to keep us down. It's going to keep motivating us to do more and to be better. So just remember, things aren't always going to go your way. Don't give up. Keep working hard. Keep doing the right thing. Keep your compass due north and do the right thing for your staff and your patients.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.